Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Mike, man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm ready to dive right back in to NBA basketball after the 3 to 4 days where people weren't talking about NBA basketball break that we had.
Was it really that long? I feel like people are still talking about it.
The NBA is officially a 365 sport. I think we said it last year, but this year it really feels that way. And we took a nice little summer break from the fantasy, but I'm ready to get back into it. It's going to be draft time before you know it.
Oh, no doubt. And there'll be a kind of a little bit of a dead time as like the football picks up here in the next couple weeks. But I mean, I feel like there's still always basketball stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, once the NFL gets rolling, everybody's going to be doing their fantasy football stuff. But fantasy basketball, way more important, way more interesting. I'm not going to hate on the fantasy footballers. Anyone can play. Good, congratulations.
Well, and I think that's the allure.
True, that makes sense, and it's only once a week, so you don't have to be super dedicated to it to actually play. Makes sense. There's something for everybody.
And in that sense, you can be super lucky because it's only a 17-game sample. So, I mean, you can not really know what you're doing. Pick a guy who has an awesome season and win the league.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens every season in every single league. There doesn't seem to be too much rhyme or reason to who wins those leagues, even the super competitive ones. So enough fantasy football, slightly bashing fantasy football. We have 30 freaking teams to review. We're going to start on our adventure into kind of doing a team, I guess, preview more than a review of next season's fantasy analysis for each one of the NBA teams. It's gonna be pretty daunting, Tyler.
No, it's not now.
It's daunting.
Don't lie.
There has been more turnover this offseason, I think, than any offseason in recent memory.
We could talk about the whole kind of landscape of the free agency and whatnot. What's happened the last 2 years, I think, is actually going to hurt a lot of next year's free agents in the sense that the big guys are still going to get the money. I mean, they're always going to get the big dollars, but there's going to be some real bargains to be had next year because a lot of teams are not going to have cap space, and there's a lot of guys who are available who are really good players.
Yeah, there were some weird contracts. When you see Tim Hardaway's contract and you look at Derrick Rose's contract, granted, I'd probably rather have Tim Hardaway on my team, but not for that money. But Derrick Rose, 1 year to $2.1 million. That's a bargain.
Well, and you have teams who they make a mistake. I mean, Brooklyn and then Portland matching it did it last year with Allen Crabbe. They have a young player that they want to keep, but the other team knows that the only way they're going to get them away is to offer a crazy amount of money. And so the player gets super overvalued. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure last year Allen Crabbe was like one of the top 30 contracts in the league. Like he was one of the top 30 highest paid players, and he's going to be that way for like the next 3 or 4 seasons. And there's just no way he can match that value. But that's the only way you're going to steal him away. So, I mean, that's what the other teams have to do.
That contract looks really bad now, and I do not envy the people who actually play salary leagues because that seems like a really daunting task. I'm not that far in to the down the deep end actual salary league, though I'm considering it.
Well, the only thing I guess I'm not a huge fan of in a salary league is you don't have any control over what your person gets paid. I mean, if you had, like, say, Tim Hardaway and he was useful in that league, like if it was a 16, 18 team league, and now he gets paid $20 million a season, like you had no control over that.
True, but you can kind of probably prepare around guys who are going to be free agencies and guys who have smaller contracts, probably a little bit more valuable, stuff like that.
I just think if you're playing in that kind of dynasty league, I think it creates more roster turnover, which is kind of what happens in the league. So if that's your goal is to make it as much like the actual NBA, I mean, I guess you're doing that.
Yeah. Maybe that's what you want. Maybe we'll get into a little salary. Really, our plans for the rest of the offseason is to start with some of the teams that had the least turnover this offseason and kind of break those down real quick, and then kind of get more in depth into the ones that had a lot of turnover. You're going to see a lot of difference in what they did last year versus the players on the roster and the style of play they're going to be playing, and really the fantasy value of those players on those teams. And then once we are running through those 30 teams, we're going to start doing some mock drafts and some strategy podcasts. So if people have questions, people are interested in certain content, if you're interested in a salary league, get at us. Let us know on Twitter. I'm already going to drop my Twitter already. We're real early in this podcast. I'm at Watch the Boxes. And Tyler, what's your Twitter handle so they can get at you right now?
At Watsy4444.
Stop what you're doing. Tweet at us right now what you want to hear for the rest of the season, or the preseason, I would say. So let's get at it. We got like we said, we got a lot of teams, but I think there's a handful of ones that we can kind of just bust through. There's quite a few teams that, or at least a handful of teams that didn't really have too much change and probably shouldn't see a lot of change in the value of their players this year.
I'm with you on that.
We were going to start with, and we're already throwing this off the ship. That's not I don't think that's a metaphor, but we're going to start with Cleveland. But then what the hell? We can't start without talking about what the hell's going on in Cleveland. I assumed they were just going to bring everybody back, and then this whole giant Kyrie trade rumor pops up, and it seems not to be a rumor. If you would have asked me about 4 days ago whether I thought it would happen, I'd say like 90% chance it doesn't happen. Now it seems like there's a 90% chance it's going to happen.
Well, I guess the interesting part of it is he really wants out. Okay, so that's a thing. But if you're LeBron and you're the de facto GM, as you always like to say, I mean, who else are you really gonna want on your team?
So I'm already ready for my conspiracy. I'm ready for my conspiracy theory. I know what's going on in Cleveland. I got inside sources. So number one, Kyrie, he knows LeBron's leaving next year. He knows. LeBron's been talking about it, probably told him about it. Kyrie knows LeBron's leaving next year. LeBron's going to LA. Kyrie's sitting around, he's looking around, he's like, well, what the hell? We fired our GM. LeBron's going to leave me here with a crappy team, with no future, with no draft picks. So we traded them all away to get Kyle Korver and whoever else to fit around LeBron. And I'm going to have a team that's built to fit around LeBron and not me for basically the start in the middle of my prime. I'm just going to be wallowing in mediocrity here while LeBron goes to LA. Screw that. I'm going to get out first and leave LeBron here so I don't get stuck in the mistake by the lake. Beautiful Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, okay, that's a theory.
I think it's a pretty good theory.
I'll indulge you on it in saying this, okay? Teams realistically that could trade for him. Go ahead. Who you got?
I've been thinking about this. My number one rank is the Phoenix Suns.
Okay, so you're going to assume that they're going to trade away Bledsoe and who?
You got to throw Bledsoe in there. You probably have to get rid of Chris or Bender, one of those two guys. And you probably have to throw in one of those Miami draft picks. And then, you might have to throw another guy in to make the salaries work.
Okay, so are they really going to be any better than Cleveland-less LeBron?
No, not at all. Now, I'm thinking Kyrie wants to get out of there simply because, well, Cleveland-less LeBron doesn't have any future. Actually, yeah, the Suns would be better than Cleveland-less LeBron because they have young talent, they have draft picks, they have something moving forward.
Here's the part of it I think you're missing.
I changed my mind.
And okay, so LeBron leaves. So what leaves with LeBron is all those guys who are willing to take that little tiny bit of money and try to chase a ring. So you got guys like Jeff Green this year, Kyle Korver, Derrick Rose, who was willing to pay for like $2 million to try to chase the ring.
The return of Derrick Rose.
Okay, so those guys are going to leave too, which is going to leave Cleveland with quite a bit of cap space, and still Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. So, assuming they can get the players, they're actually not going to be in a horrendous position.
Cap space wise, young talent wise, they're really good. I don't know how many draft picks they have. I'd have to look it up.
Well, see, the way that they can do it now is they can only trade every other year in the first round.
Yes.
So they still have some picks. And I was looking this up the other day for an article I'm writing. I'm pretty sure that they definitely have next year's, and I don't think they've traded away 2020 or 2019's yet either. They traded away the 2019 second.
Yeah, so they do own their own draft picks. Except for 2019, that goes to Atlanta. And their second round 18, their second round 19, their second round 20 all goes out, but they are getting a 19 and 20 back in from other teams.
So I mean, I don't think they're in that horrendous of a spot.
If they're terrible that first year, right? If they're terrible in 2018, 19 season, right? Then they don't have their first round draft pick there. So they're going to have to be that's another year that they don't have anything coming in, and then they'll start the rebuild the year after that, unless they can, convince some free agents to come in.
But the whole narrative that you hear from like ESPN and all those guys is, oh, he doesn't want to be LeBron's little brother anymore and all this stuff. And it's like, well, okay, I guess I understand that, but like, what better situation is he going to put himself in? Like, he wants to be the man, but there's very few teams where he's going to go there and be the man and still have the success.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why he wants out if he wants to play for championships. To me, it has to be another reason, and it has to be the fact that he doesn't want to be stuck in Cleveland without LeBron when LeBron obviously is going to leave, or he just really hates LeBron.
Well, he did sign that 5-year contract before LeBron came.
True.
So I mean,
maybe it's not Cleveland.
He can't hate Cleveland that much. I'm assuming.
I don't know.
I think his worry is probably that LeBron doesn't leave, that LeBron stays, and then he's his number two for, even after LeBron starts slipping.
So yeah, we're gonna have to wait until this plays out in order to actually properly rate these the players on this team. Though, even so, I don't think there's going to be terrible, drastic moves in the value of Kyrie or LeBron. I guess if Kyrie goes to his own team and he gets way more usage, but Kyrie had more usage than LeBron last year, so I'm not really sure what he's trying to get at.
Yeah, I don't really see any way that Kyrie gets a ton better. I mean, he scored 25 points a game last year.
Yeah, he shot the ball a lot. And, hey, he's really good at getting to the rim. Good for you. I don't know why you would want your own team if you're playing for a final, basically a championship every single year. But we'll get back to Cleveland once that all pans out. I hope that pans out pretty soon here, so we can kind of move on with and finalize some of the rankings that we have been working on. So let's go with like the team that basically had almost no. Actually, well, they definitely had something because they had a draft pick. Well, they bought a draft pick, a very special draft pick in my heart, the number 38 pick. Golden State Warriors bought Jordan Bell from the Chicago Bulls, and now. If you remember, my theory is they did not buy Jordan Bell from the Bulls. The Bulls had no idea who Jordan Bell was. Golden State did. They bought the pick. They drafted Jordan Bell. showing how negligent the Chicago Bulls actually are. They didn't even notice that there was a Draymond Green-esque defender just sitting there waiting to be taken. Well, I wonder why Golden State wants to give me $3.5 million. I love money more than winning, so screw it. Thank you, you jerk, stupid, on-office Bulls people. But other than that, they lost nobody. They re-signed Durant, Iguodala, Livingston, JaVale McGee even re-signed. Jaja Pachulia, one of my favorite players to say his name, and David West. And they brought in Nick Young. I forgot about Nick Young and Omer Caspi. 2 really great contracts. So they did add some pieces, but fantasy-wise, not a huge difference here on this team.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ian Clark, I mean, that situation's still up in the air. I still don't think he's signed with anybody yet. So, I mean, they could potentially lose him. And I think they will lose him because I think they have 15 guaranteed contracts now. So I don't think he'll be back. The only player who's probably going to lose, quote-unquote, standard league relevance was Nick Young. Nick Young was like the 159th ranked player last year, so he was just barely standard league relevant there. And I don't think he's going to be on this Warriors team.
Do you think Nick Young slips into kind of an Iguodala role? Iguodala played 26 minutes a game. On averages, he was ranked 110th, so technically standard league relevant. Though Iguodala does get his relevancy from doing all the little things and not doing anything great. Do you think Nick Young can slip in 25 minutes a game, or are you assuming that that's just not going to happen on this team?
It's going to happen some nights, and you're going to have to pick your spots. I think the whole reason for deepening the team even more is to not only allow some players to rest a little bit more, like we'll probably give Iguodala his fair share of nights off and just say, okay, you're not playing tonight. I also think that Nick Young is a player who's never really going to give you any defensive stats. So if you need threes and points, even if you know Nick Young is going to get big minutes, that's really all he's going to give you.
Yeah, probably a spot starter at best. Nick Young, you'll have to pay attention to that if you're in head-to-head leagues, but could be a valuable spot starter, so someone you want to keep an eye on. But some nights he might not play hardly 15 minutes, but other nights he might play 32. And that's just going to vary. Like you said, looking at the rest of this team, anyone getting significantly better or worse? Do you think these guys are staying right around the same spot that they were in last year?
I really think the only thing worth talking about is Durant missed the 20 games last year. So that bumped up the values a little bit of Curry, of Draymond Green, of Klay Thompson. And so if you assume that Durant stays relatively healthy and plays, instead of 61, he plays 75 games, I think some of those guys maybe move back just a hair. But, I mean, we're all talking. I mean, all 4 of those players are going to be top 35 guys. So,
yeah. Nothing. I would agree. There's nothing super significant there. Even with Kevin Durant playing, let's say 75 games this year, to me that just bumps him up, obviously in totals, to probably the best player. If you're including, if you're in a roto league, I would take him first overall, probably. And I wouldn't venture not taking him first overall in a head-to-head league. You could probably make an argument for someone like Harden or Westbrook, though they're in new situations as well, and we'll eventually get to those teams. But really, here nothing super significant. Do you want to rank these guys? I think it's pretty obvious. It's Durant, Curry, easily top 5 players. Draymond, Klay, you're kind of second and third round guys. Anyone else on this team standard league relevant?
Draymond, where are you going?
That's a tough one. If I have
league, where are you picking him?
If I have to give an armchair, I haven't not finalized my rankings at all. It's still way too early to get to that. But if I'm looking at Draymond in a 12 team roto league, or is that what we're looking at?
Sure.
All right, 12-team Roto League. Freaking Draymond. I'd probably take him beginning of the third round.
I'm with you. I might even sneak him into the back half of the second there.
Yeah, it depends on whoever your first pick was, but if he fits real well, I would take him mid-second round if it fits perfectly.
The only problem with picking him super, super high, and he came out, if you do total value on Basketball Monster, he came out 20th last season. The only problem with picking him super, super high is that he only scores 10 points a game. And I mean, you know, Mike, that those real high scoring guys dry up real quick.
Yeah, they disappear.
And so picking a guy who only gets 10 points a game real early can sometimes hamstring you in that points category.
Yeah, you would almost have to pair him with someone who gets incredible points. So James Harden would be someone to pair him with. Anthony Davis would be someone to pair him with. Or you could go the other way and punt points and just say, all right, I'm going with low points this year, which I don't recommend, but it's something people do.
Well, and it's super hard to do in a Roto league, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably my least favorite category to chase in a Roto league because sure, maybe you can like get a spot start of a guy, but if you're spot starting a guy like Nick Young, who you're expecting, he's going to get big minutes, he could get a lot of points. Nick Young's also the guy who can shoot 3 for 20 in a game and completely kill your field goal percentage.
Yeah, and all the best players, they score points. That's why they're the best players in the league. And there's only a handful of players who, like Draymond, and there's really not hardly at all. There's only like three players like Draymond Green who don't score and are significantly valued in fantasy. And Draymond's just by far the best one and makes up for that. I think let's move on to the Spurs. The Warriors, you kind of know what you're getting there. The Spurs, similar kind of feel here. They really didn't lose any of their main players. Dwayne Dedmon went to Atlanta. Jonathan Simmons went to Orlando, which I think Jonathan Simmons isn't that good, but whatever. Derek White was drafted. I'm not sure he's worth mentioning, but Paul Gasol re-signed. Rudy Gay is the big gain in free agency. And Manu coming back for another year. Patty Mills coming back for another year. This team's a little bit more interesting than I kind of put them at second with like don't expect a lot of difference here, but a little bit more interesting than I thought they would be.
Well, there's a two big talking points, I think. Number one, is Rudy Gay going to be ready to play at the beginning of the season? And what are we going to see after the torn Achilles? And the second thing is who's going to be the point guard? Because Tony Parker's out probably at least until the new year, at least until the calendar flips to 2018. So who is going to get those minutes at the point?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a stopgap year for the Spurs. They brought some people in who they know they're just not going to be I think they know they're not going to be title contenders, even though they were title contenders last year. So never count out the Spurs ever for any reason. But yeah, you're Rudy Gay might not be back till January. Tony Parker might not start the year. Patty Mills is probably the most interesting possibility of significantly getting a bump. LaMarcus Aldridge had a very bad year for him last year, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be getting any better at his age. Paul Gasol is coming back, but should play less minutes. Is there anyone who's significantly better, significantly worse? Someone you might want to bump down on this team?
Bump down. I mean, depending on where Aldridge gets picked, I'm probably really not super looking at him because I think his name value will carry more value than his actual value this year. So in most standard leagues, I'm really not looking to pick Aldridge. My kind of sleeper guy that I might take late on if he's going there is DeJounte Murray. I think Murray can kind of sneak in there and get some of those minutes at the point. And it's Pop's team, right? They're always going to be winning games, I think, even no matter who they're running out there. They just play that great team style of basketball. And I think Murray's going to get some stats if he's the guy actually getting the minutes.
Yeah, this team's just getting nothing but older, and they probably need to bring in some youth like DeJounte Murray. Danny Green, who had a very good year a couple years ago, fell back to his normal shooting under 40%, both last year and the year before that. I don't see him suddenly breaking out again like he did that one year at the age of 30. Really, I'm kind of down on this team outside of at Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. There's not a ton of great standard league options. I mean, you got whoever starts a point guard. I mean, Pau Gasol is going to be a top 100 player probably, but not super into that top 100. I mean, he's probably going to be 80 to 100.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got not a lot of like super fantasy relevant options that you're getting excited about. If Rudy Gay was starting the season, I might be into him just if people get scared off by the Achilles. But, I mean, I'm kind of scared off by the Achilles in the sense that he tore it in January. I don't even know. He might not play till January. He might not play at all.
If I'm in a Roto League and Rudy Gay is still on the board, and he's going to have the next, not the last round, next to last round, I think I'm picking him up.
Yeah, because, I mean, especially in a Roto League, right, those bench players, you're not super counting on them for a ton.
No.
And so that's a kind of great upside flyer in the sense that we've seen Rudy Gay be, what, like a top 30 player?
Yeah, just even last year.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you there.
He might be really, really nice in Pop's system. He's a scorer. He does a little bit of everything. Who knows what kind of player you're getting back after that Achilles. Patty Mills is probably my pick to be a standard league relevant guy who really was borderline last year. I think he might be a solid standard league guy.
Well, he was 122nd in 21.9 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So if you're saying he's going to get 28, if you're saying he's going to get 32, obviously that number's only going to go up. The worry is he had like almost 0 blocks. So he's a guard who's not going to help you at all in that category.
And he's not a lights out 3-point shooter. He's not hitting a ton of threes. I mean, sadly, 2 threes is not the same thing as it used to be. But yeah, I think he can, especially in a Roto League because of his turnovers. I think he can approach starters minutes simply because, well, Tony Parker being out probably at the beginning of the year and them not really sure what they're going to be doing from the point guards. He's the de facto point guard at that point.
I'm looking.
I'm not sure if I'm not reaching for him, that's for sure. But rest of this team, like you said, LaMarcus not excited. Paul Gasol can only get worse. Not sure I can get behind anyone else on this team. Let's quickly get away from the depressing San Antonio Spurs and move on to Toronto, another team with very little turnover here. They drafted my main man OG Anunoby at 23. Love that guy. Probably he's taken over Ja's place in favorite names to say. Still behind Bismack Biyombo.
Probably not ready to start the season though for Anunoby. Right? He tore that ACL in like January, so he's probably not going to be anything this year. If you're playing in a redraft league, he's probably not going to.
Redraft league, stay away from that guy. Let's see. They brought in. They re-signed Ibaka. They re-signed Lowry. They brought in CJ Miles from Indiana. Probably the most interesting thing fantasy-wise. They lost Patrick Patterson and PJ Tucker, and they lost DeMarre Carroll and Corey Joseph.
And they can't sell Jonas Valanciunas for a cup of beans.
Cannot get rid of that guy. Which they has there. When was the last year you said, man, they should not get rid of Jonas Valanciunas this year? Was it like 5 years ago? Was the last time you're like, maybe give that guy a shot?
Let's see here. What was it? It was after was it rookie or sophomore year that he kind of had that tantalizing numbers, but he didn't play that much, and you were like, man, if they just let this guy play, he might be awesome. And then it just never happened.
And they tried to let him play that next year because everyone overdrafted him. They tried to let him play. They still wouldn't let him finish fourth quarters because he just bleeds offense from the other team. And yeah, ever since then they've been like, maybe we should trade this guy, and they never did. And the guy's only 25.
Yeah, and I mean he keeps getting better. I mean, weirdly enough, the blocks went away last year, but like a lot of the numbers keep getting better. It's just he never gets the minutes. I mean, 26 minutes every year for the last 3 years. No reason to see that change now.
So you had your Kyle Lowry, obviously the best player on this team by far, fantasy wise. Always one of my favorite guys to pick up and get a good. You usually can get him in the draft at a pretty good price, and then he overperforms for the first half of the season every single year. Every single year, great first half, falls off the second half. Just move him before the All-Star break, you'll be fine.
Yeah, the talking point for me, I think, is do you make anything of this? DeMar DeRozan's going to be more of a ball handler this year. Storyline that
no.
that they're trying to feed you.
I'm making none of that. DeMar DeRozan is a black hole. He's just like Melo. The ball goes to him and it never comes back out. If I honestly don't even want to see him try to run more point guard or whatever, point forward or whatever they want to call him. That's just not what he's good at. Taking the ball out of Kyle Lowry's hands is a dumb idea.
Well, it's not. He's not a creator, right? He's ISO Joe, man. He's ISO DeMar.
And he's great, and he is fantastic at that.
I also read one that he was going to shoot more threes. He's not. He's not going to do it. He's never going to make threes. He is always going to be the last best points man in your draft. I think that if you need points, if you've got
sitting there in round 4 and you're like,
if you got Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green early and you're like, God, I need some points, he's going to be it in round 4. Sometimes he even slips around 5 in like those standard leagues where you can snag him and he's the last best shot at 27 points a game.
Do you think, I mean, DeMar is in his prime. Do you think he can get better next year? Do you think he can, like you're saying, I don't think he can improve on his threes, so I'm out on that. But do you think he can improve in any other facet of his game? His steals are a little lackluster. Obviously, his threes suck, and his assists are pretty average for a guard.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it, steals, assists, blocks. I mean, 0.2. He's a athletic guy. He could get more than that. I don't really see it. He is what he is at 27. I mean, that's what you're going to get. There's going to be some normal fluctuation. Maybe he's a little bit higher, a little bit lower in the points in some of those categories, but he is what he is.
What about Kyle Lowry? You think there's any possibility he could get any better? I think really he's plateaued. Same with DeMar.
I think the next thing we see from Kyle Lowry is worse, not better.
I think he can only get worse. He played 37 minutes a game last year. I don't know why they would continue. I mean, other than they really don't have anyone to help, but I'm not sure why they would continue to throw that many minutes at him, especially when at the end of the year and in the playoffs, you can just see the fact that all that wear and tear on Kyle Lowry has just breaks him down every year.
Any interest in Norman Powell, who may be getting some more minutes for a standard league?
That's a good question. A little bit. He's a little intriguing. He does seem to be able to stretch the floor. I don't know if he's getting enough minutes in the. I'm not sure he's intriguing enough to waste a draft pick on him. That's a wait and see for me.
I'm with you there. They don't have a ton that you're like getting excited about that could be getting the minutes. Like you mentioned, 3 or 4 guys that left. If they're playing Norman Powell 25 minutes, 20, I mean, he got 18 minutes a game last year. Like I don't see them thrusting him right up to 30. So I don't super love him for a standard league. He's kind of a nice, in a little bit deeper league, he's a nice kind of late upside target though, in the sense that if he does get a lot more minutes, I think he could be kind of interesting.
Do you think CJ Miles slides right into the starting position here and ends up getting over 30 minutes a game?
Well, I mean, it's him and Norman Powell, right? I think CJ Miles is what he is. I mean, he's going to play what he always plays, at 28-minute range, I would guess. He's going to shoot threes. He's going to give you, I mean, not even great points. It's going to be CJ Miles, right? We've seen this how many times?
There's always a 3 to 5 week period, or maybe a couple 3-week periods, where CJ Miles becomes one of the hottest shooters in the league. And it's probably in head-to-head leagues, it's the most fun spot starter when you pick that guy up and you're like, all right, riding this guy for the next couple weeks. And it's great. It works out really well. I think he's going to get more opportunity in Toronto to actually shoot the ball, because he doesn't really have to worry about Paul George playing as basically in his spot. DeMar and Lowry are going to be doing their thing. He's just going to be sitting around in the corner or wherever and just jacking threes. I think there is potential for him to play 30 minutes a game, and simply because Norman Powell, I'm not sure if he's ready to play heavy minutes, though he definitely will play more minutes. And I could see CJ Miles being a standard league relevant player.
Surprisingly, he only played 23 and 23 minutes the last 2 seasons. If you look back to 2014, 2015, where he played 26 minutes, which I think we could easily see him getting that on this roster. 13.5 points, 2.2 threes, 3.1 rebounds, 1.1 assists, almost a steal, and almost half a block. It was good for 108 in per game value in 2014, 2015. So I guess that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he was on averages ranked 135th, which sneaks him into standard league relevancy. A few more minutes here and there, and he could end up being just right on that borderline, right on the drop zone, where you're not really sure how long you want to keep that guy, but if he keeps making shots, why not? I'm not at the age of 30. I'm not super excited about calling CJ Miles a sleeper at all. I'm not going to do that.
And here's the point, I guess, that I'll make is he's worth being rostered in a standard league, but where he's going to be picked, he's not somebody I'm going to pick.
Now, he has decent name relevancy, which is surprising. And a lot of people are going to look at that depth chart and they're going to go, oh, he's starting. Boom, picking him up. 9th round. And to me, I'm not wasting a 9th round pick on that guy.
Well, and what's his ceiling, right? Like, his ceiling is
what he's doing already.
Right, barely top 100, if he even scrapes the top 100. So I'm not picking him at his value, and in a standard league, in those last 2 or 3 picks, I want somebody who I'm going to shoot the moon, right? I'm going to pick someone young who could get more. I'm going to pick Norman Powell over CJ Miles at that point, because we could see Norman Powell get a lot better and really give me a good value. Whereas CJ Miles is 30 years old. It's not happening, man. He's going to be what CJ Miles is.
Yeah, the upside isn't there, and it's not worth reaching for anyone who does not have upside in the second half of your draft. It's just not worth reaching.
I'm with you there.
Anyone else on this team interest you? Is Serge Ibaka getting any better? Doubt it.
I think that guy might be like 32 years old. He's in my Kyle Lowry bucket.
Just throwing that age blasphemy out there. You're gonna get, allegedly. We're going to get sued for libel here, man. I don't think that's how libel works, but whatever.
All I'm saying is I've only seen those numbers get worse.
He has been in the decline for a couple of years.
I don't understand why they would all of a sudden get better.
Well,
I guess is my point.
The reason he was in decline, to me, was simply because he wasn't hiding behind Westbrook and Durant last year.
But see, I'll give you that. The problem with him, I think, is what made him super valuable back in the day.
Just 5 blocks a game.
Well, okay, it was like 3 or 3.5.
Well, whatever.
But what are the blocks now? 1.5.
And that's piss poor.
And they're not coming back, man. They're just not.
No, and that's a good sign that the athleticism is gone. I'm not getting excited about Jonas Valanciunas either. I don't. He's 25. How could he get any better if he played 35 minutes a game? Is that actually going to happen?
Well, I mean, he's going to get better if he actually gets 30 minutes. Is he going to get 30 minutes? No. It's not going to happen. He got 26 the last 3 years. They're not going to say, oh, all of a sudden we now love you. We're going to give you 32 minutes a game. It's not going to happen. He's going to be what he's been in the last few years. If you look at total value, he was actually 47th in rankings last year by Basketball Monster because he shoots really good percentages. I mean, the thing that I don't like to have him as my center, especially where he often gets picked because everyone always says about the upside, is minimal blocks, minimal steals. It's just not for me. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, he's another guy who, I mean, especially today, if my center isn't shooting threes, you're not doing it right. And that's a crazy thing to say. If you said that 3 years ago, you'd be laughed out of the room. But now, if your center isn't hitting threes, you don't have a good center. It's as simple as that. Well, there's just that many centers hitting threes.
Or getting over 2 blocks a game, right?
Over a block a game, at the very least. And he's not even doing that.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you gotta do one or the other. You gotta get the 2 blocks like Hassan Whiteside or Rudy Gobert, or you gotta shoot threes. And
you have
if you're not doing
DeAndre Jordan, or you have to be, I guess, Karl Anthony Towns,
or even Brook Lopez, right?
Or Brook Lopez, yeah, that's probably a better comparison.
And so because he doesn't do either, like, I mean, I'm not super interested in him now. If he falls enough, I mean, like, what's your spot? I guess now we'll throw out this fact that no rankings are set here, but what spot are you starting to kind of look and say, okay, maybe I'll go for Jonas Valanciunas?
You see Jonas sitting there. So I already got a center because I'm not stupid, and I'm looking at him.
Right, because I'm not.
I think if he's sitting around at the bottom, like the 8th round, I'm starting.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at.
I'm like, maybe I don't have a backup center, and I'm like, I don't have a second center, and maybe he could be all right. And there's not that many centers back on the board. Yeah, why not?
And I guess that's my point. Is I don't want to say that I'm not interested in him at all. I'm trying to say I'm not interested in him at the spot where I often see him go in drafts.
What's his best case scenario next year, right? He plays 31 minutes a game?
Oh, I don't even think that's his best case scenario. I think his best case scenario is he plays 28 minutes a game. 29, somewhere in there. I mean,
that doesn't significantly bump him up.
No, his best case scenario is barely top 50.
Man, I wouldn't even go that far.
Well, he was 47th if you look at total value last year.
I guess I'm looking on average because he played almost every game.
He played 80 games, so he was 47th, and that's his ceiling, I think. Because even with the 2 or 3 extra minutes, I don't see him producing a ton more. Yeah, he might get up to 10 rebounds a game instead of 9.5 and 12.5 points instead of 12, but okay. I mean, that's not really going to push him up. Plus, you're going to see some of these other guys move past him, I think. So I think it's going to be about the same. Because the pace only keeps getting faster in the league, right?
And he's not built for that. And on top of that, everyone's getting better.
Yeah, so
I was actually going to make that point. I'll make that point with LeBron at a later date, that LeBron's great, but the league has just gotten better around him. He's actually not gotten worse, which is pretty crazy to think about. Let's move on to Washington. Another team really didn't have any giant moves. They re-signed Otto Porter. They got Jody Meeks from Orlando. They ended up getting Tim Frazier from New Orleans, and Bojan Bogdanovic. Got him in free agency. No, they lost Bojan Bogdanovic. Sorry, Bojan Bogdanovic. He's on Indiana.
Yes.
And they lost Brandon Jennings to the Shanghai Brave Dragons. No, that's not Shanghai.
I thought it was Sharks.
The Zhangzi Brave Dragons. That's what it says here on ESPN. I don't know who to trust.
Brandon Jennings not a thing anymore after that torn Achilles, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sad. So
very sad.
tangent question: is Tim Frazier better than Brandon Jennings at this moment?
Yes.
Is that an upgrade? I think so too. And so they made.
I secretly like Tim Frazier, but not in any like significant way. Just I think he's a good basketball player.
This ESPN listing him at 6'1" is hilarious.
Yeah, he's definitely not 6'1". He's a competent basketball player. He'd be the best point guard on the Chicago Bulls right now.
Fact, and you and I talked a little bit about that offline, is how horrendous that point guard situation is for Chicago right now.
We're not the Chicago team evaluation, so I'm going to stay out of this.
Here's the bad news: the point guard crop in next year's draft is not looking good. I'm writing a 2018 mock draft right now, and the point guard crop is not good.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We just need the Bulls need a player who is good at basketball. Doesn't matter what position they play. Doesn't matter their alleged age.
Tangent question:
as long as they're not a 7-foot tall white guy who shoots threes.
Tangent question: they bring Mirotic back?
I believe so. I don't think there's a market for him, and he's a good asset. If he, to me, I try to buy out Wade whenever I can, and if not, just let him play or whatever. And then I try to run the whole offense around Niko Mirotic. What do you got to lose? He's gonna look great. And then trade him.
I actually think that they've messed that up for years, especially with that second unit, not trying to give Mirotic the ball more and let him do his thing.
He's not a spot-up shooter. He's a playmaker. He's not a great playmaker, but he's very good at basketball.
And here's one of the things that I think makes Fred Hoiberg one of the worst coaches in the league is he thinks everybody should fit into his system instead of playing to his players' strengths, which is a big mistake, right? I mean, you want to put your players in the best position that they can have to win the games. And he tries to fit everybody into a bucket.
God, Fred Hoiberg. And the front office chose him over Jimmy Butler. You know what? It's going to be a long, depressing season.
So, back to our...
I got to get out of this. I'm starting to fall down the deep hole of depression.
Back to our Wizards discussion. John Wall, first round pick, yes, no?
Yeah, I'm doing it. I think he makes the first round in a 12-team league. He's 26. He's entering his prime. I think he gets better next year. I don't know. Not significantly better, obviously, but he can get better. I think he will be better next year. So I would take him in the first round, into the first round for sure. But
I think he leads the league in assists too.
Wow, and assists are hard to come by these days.
He barely beat out Westbrook last year with Harden and Chris Paul going to the same team. I think he leads the league in assists at like 10.5.
I think it's possible. I think he can do it. Bradley Beal's probably the next best player on this team. He's only 24. Is he getting better?
Bradley Beal?
Yeah.
We've talked about him in the past. I mean, he was 26th in total value last year. The thing that always worries me is what's up with those legs.
Yep.
So if you're telling me I have to pick him in the late second, early third round, I'm passing.
You're probably gonna have to pick him exactly where you just said.
And I'm passing because I think that's his ceiling, right? And I don't super love to do that. I don't love to pick a player at his ceiling.
He's a top 30 player, 100%. I think he could be better. I think he could be better than he was last year.
Okay, where? I'll indulge you on that. Where's he going to get better?
I think he could probably hit a few more threes. He could probably get to the line a little bit more. And he's 24. I don't see why he couldn't improve a little bit on his defense. Maybe get a little bit more steals. And I think that's about it. I don't know if he could get more assists or not, but I doubt it.
So you're comfortable picking him
in gentle increases.
You're comfortable picking him in that late second, early third spot.
I'm not, because he's burned me every single year I picked him. Screwed me over by getting injured every single year. This was his first healthy year. Let's just everybody remember that. So in that case, I'm not. Those are two different questions. Would I draft him at the end of the second round? No. Could he be a end of second round worthy-esque player at the end of next year? Yes.
Oh,
he
yeah.
could be better.
He could be, but I don't think that's the most likely outcome, I guess, is my point. And that's kind of what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure he gets worse.
No, I think he is what he is.
At the very least, he stays where he is, where he was.
But the problem,
he's only 24. He's got to get better.
But the problem to me is, I think it could be 50 games instead of 77.
It's always the risk here.
And it could be 20 games instead of 77. So I'll give you a couple of like would you rather's. Gordon Hayward, Bradley Beal.
Gordon Hayward.
CJ McCollum, Bradley Beal.
CJ McCollum.
Mike Conley, Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal.
Let's see here. Klay Thompson, Bradley Beal.
Klay Thompson.
I'm with you there. Let's see. Kyle Lowry, Bradley Beal.
Kyle Lowry. I love Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, see, so that's already pushing him down into the third round, I think.
Good point. He's probably a third round player.
And
I don't want to reach for him simply because of the injury risk.
I don't want him unless it's the fourth round. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to get him there. Though.
You're a hater. You're a Bradley Beal hater, and I respect you for that.
I guess I'm just a realist in the sense that I think his injury risk is a rather high probability. And he stayed healthy last year.
I need to see another healthy year from him before I'm willing to not waste, but to take in the second round, third round pick on this guy.
So maybe this is even the best question of all. Otto Porter or Bradley Beal?
Bradley Beal.
Otto Porter 17th last year in total value. Bradley Beal 26th.
I do not trust Otto Porter.
I'm with you.
I don't trust Otto Porter, and I guess I've been skewing my rankings. Usually, I don't do this. I'm skewing my rankings towards all you head-to-head people who love getting punting turnovers, which is what you're supposed to do. This is why head-to-head's inferior, simply because you already punt. You're going in punting an entire category that matters to the game of basketball.
But here's what
Otto Porter's value comes from his lack of turnovers.
But here's what I'll say for those head-to-head people, right? There's no better thing than talking junk to your buddy because you crushed him in a head-to-head league. In Roto League, you only get one chance, right? At the end of the season when you.
It's more fun to play. It's more fun to play head-to-head. I would agree with that.
And that's the main difference, right? Is the draw is, oh, I can say, Mike, oh man, I crushed you last week. You remember that? You remember that beating I gave you, and talk all that junk. Whereas in Roto League, you only really get one shot to do that.
I still have my problems, especially with the amount of games teams play within a week. They're just not even, and I understand there's ways to get around that, but
so I think the new schedule that's starting 2 weeks earlier is going to alleviate some of that problem.
I hope so. I really do.
It's the goal, I guess, is to eliminate all the 4 games of 5 nights.
Those should already have been eliminated. That is just a bad. Those are schedule. They're literally called schedule losses for a reason, because teams just don't even play. They don't even bother to try those games.
And they're supposedly also going to limit the back-to-backs more. So I think we're going to see the schedule kind of even out a little bit this year, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think it only really matters in the playoffs, right? Like, everyone can take a loss during a week in the season, and it's going to happen regardless. Someone's going to get hot. Someone's going to have some bum player who shouldn't even be on their roster who has a real good week and beats you. So, I mean, it's just variance in any small sample size.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you think Otto Porter can do what he did last year? Do you think he's that type of player?
I think the percentages get worse.
Shot 51% from the field.
Yeah. So
amazing.
The question is, does he get more shots then, right? Because obviously if you shoot a worse percentage, your points go down unless you get more shots. I mean, that's just math. It's Simple.
10 field goals a game, attempts a game. So,
And
not a whole lot. It's not like that number got better as the year went on. It's not like they're like going to him more. In fact, they were going to him less because he had a very, very, very strong first half, and then his shot kind of disappeared over the last month of the season. Now, granted, the last month of the season is not a good sample size, so let's stay away from that. But his shot did get worse as the season went on.
so, spot you're looking at picking him. Obviously, I think it's behind all the guys I mentioned a little bit ago.
Yes.
So,
And head-to-head-
where are you thinking?
And head to head, I'm down on him even further because I'm punting turnovers. I guess I'd be interested in him probably in the beginning of the 5th round.
I'm with you. I'm probably maybe not even picking him there. I don't love him. I don't really see anywhere that he gets a ton better. He's only
And
he's only 24.
That is absolutely crazy because he is a 2nd round value on 9-cat roto and 9-cat roto leagues, and yes, that comes from his turnovers, right?
Even in 8-cat, I'm looking at 8-cat total season rankings. He was 17th.
We're down on Otto Porter. I think we're too far down on Otto Porter. I'm gonna have to readjust
But
my thought on Otto Porter.
okay, let's take it back one season. Okay, in 8-cat value per game, what was Otto Porter ranked in 2015, 2016?
Probably in the bottom half, probably 60, 70.
60.
Wow.
With relatively the same minutes. But here's the basic difference. He was slightly worse in rebounds. He played 2 less minutes, and his field goal percentage was 47, and his field goal percentage was 75 instead of 51 and 80.
But he was 23.
But my point being, I don't think he shoots 51. I think he shoots closer to 47 or 48. And I guess the point I'm trying to illustrate mostly is the gap there is not huge between 60 and 17. So any minimal slippage,
especially with a player like him who really gets his value off of his efficiency and off of his lack of turnovers, and getting those that extra 3 and getting that extra steal, a little half a steal, anything like you're getting at. If those steals drop to 1 from 1.5 to 1, and that 3-point drops from 2 to 1.5, that's a far drop.
yeah. And so I guess my point is, in the 5th round, I'm comfortable because I think he's definitely going to return that value, and there's a little bit of upside. I think if you're taking him in the 3rd round, what's the upside?
I don't know. I think I'm talking myself into the 4th round. I'm starting to talk myself into the 4th round for Otto Porter, simply because if he's healthy and he has just a season similar to the one he had last year, let's say he shoots 49% instead of 51%, he's still probably in that 4th round value. He's probably better than Vujovic overall, depending on your 9-cat roto leagues. So that's what I don't like about him in a head-to-head league, is because if you're probably already punting turnovers, so his value completely disappears there. And then he doesn't really do anything spectacular anywhere else. He just does everything.
I misspoke. He was 22nd in 8 category leagues, not 17th. But
it's amazing. I'm still shocked by that.
Oh yeah, so am I.
Is that true? I mean, I don't know. I can't believe that's true. It's true. Huh.
It's crazy.
Good for him. What a story of the year. Max contract, tying up the Washington's future. Good for him. Anyone else on this team? Markieff Morris was standard league relevant. Marcin Gortat probably can't do anything but get worse, I would assume. he's getting pretty old. The league is moving away from
Gortat or Valanciunas? That's the question.
Oh, that is a good question. That's a great one. I would go with Marcin Gortat, all things considered. So, where you're going to draft Marcin Gortat is always going to be better than where you're going to draft Jonas Valanciunas. Jonas Valanciunas probably, I'd say there's a 50-50 chance that Gortat's better than Jonas.
Now, if you throw that caveat in there of where they're going to get picked, I want you to throw that out, okay? I'm saying random draft board, right? It's all smart guys who know what they're doing, okay?
Already sounds bad.
Right? So let's say they're probably relatively – I can tell you this, okay? Last year in A category, they were 59th and 60th. So they were relatively the same player with different stats, obviously. So that said, assuming they're going to go on relatively the same spot, which one would you rather have?
Man, they are just the same player. You know what? I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna switch my. If you're not looking at where they could possibly be drafted, you're just saying you get Gortat, you get Valanciunas. It's your choice. I'm gonna choose Valanciunas because he's younger, and there's the potential that his minutes go up. Gortat is not getting better.
I'm with you. I don't think he gets more than 31.2 minutes, whereas Valanciunas could get more minutes, and they were relatively the same player last year. So I am with you 100%. If the choice is Valanciunas or Gortat, they're getting drafted relatively at the same spot. I'm going Valanciunas because there's a slight bit of upward mobility there.
Are you looking at 8 cat leagues here?
Yes. I am looking at 8 cat. I believe I am looking at per game value, but I might be looking at total. So let me check this. I am looking at 8 cat total value now, and they were 59th and 60th.
That's weird. I'm not sure these rankings are correct on my screen. Would you rather have LaMarcus Aldridge or Jonas Valanciunas?
Wow. Aldridge surprisingly finished behind him last year.
That's sadly what I'm saying.
I would rather have Aldridge, I think, still. He can't be that bad, man. He just can't be.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think there's no way he gets.
Plus, if we're talking head-to-head leagues, right? Aldridge gives you a little bit more to build your team around. Valanciunas gets a big bump by those great percentages, right? And that's all well and good, but the percentages don't carry a ton of weight because there's not a lot of attempts behind them. So the numbers look flashy on the page, but there's not a ton of attempts to boost your actual percentages.
True.
Like he shot 8.8 field goals and 2.7 free throws. So you're looking at a bad field goal percentage shooter who shoots 15 times. I mean, that's twice as valuable as what he's doing. So it's not a huge help, I guess, is my point.
Let's do one more. Let's do one more team. I think we can get it out of the way. These are going to be longer ones simply because we got to get through the easy ones first, and then we'll hit the harder ones. Spend more time on those for sure in later episodes. Let's go to the Milwaukee Bucks. They really they didn't lose anybody. They really didn't gain anybody. They got DJ Wilson at number 17 in the draft, and they re-signed Tony Snell. The steal of the Michael Carter-Williams trade. Giannis could possibly be the best player in fantasy next year. The potential is there. Jabari Parker won't return until toward ACL, won't return probably till 2018, maybe the All-Star break.
even. What's your take on Jabari Parker's future?
So he's not what I'm looking at if it's a redraft league next year.
No.
Number one, you're gonna have to hold him in your okay, I guess I'll say this. If it's unlimited IR and I can get him super late, maybe. But if it's like 1 or 2 IR spots, that's just clogging up my spot. So when my first round pick gets injured, which I hope he doesn't, but if he does, now I've got to make a decision, right? Or I got to sit with an empty roster spot if there's only 1 IR.
Let me throw it out there. They both come back on the same day. They both come back mid-January. Would you rather have Parker or Rudy Gay?
That's a good question. I would rather have Parker if it's just a league for next year, in the sense that Rudy Gay might be shot. Or Parker, I think, is going to come back and play and be relatively effective.
He's young. He might recover maybe a little bit easier, hopefully.
So Parker, in total value, despite playing 51 games, was still the 127th ranked player last year.
Wow.
He scored 20 points a game, which I didn't super see coming. I kind of like him.
It's sad. It looked like he was starting to take that next step. His steals improved. His shooting was improving. It looks like he was moving towards.
But he was also playing second fiddle, which when he comes back, he's going to be third fiddle, I think.
Absolutely.
So that's something else to say.
And third fiddle behind Chris Middleton.
Yes.
Who
they're kind of making a swap there, right? They didn't have Middleton for most of last year, and they had Parker.
What was it, like 8 minutes they played both those guys together?
I believe it was something crazy like that. I don't have the stats directly in front of me. So the interesting question, and we have a lot of people who listen to this podcast who play in Dynasty League. So the interesting question to me is, startup Dynasty League, where are you going for Jabari Parker? He's 22. He's not going to play much next year.
That's a good question. If you're starting up a Dynasty League right now,
right, and you're going to get at best like half a season from him.
He's 22 years old. It's still very young. His per game ceiling right now is just looking at him, seems to be mostly a scorer. The fact that you've never seen him really steal, block a game, and that part of his game doesn't seem like it's going to be there, kind of caps his overall value across the board. He probably could be a little bit better shooter. I'd probably take him in the top 50.
Ooh, that's juicy there.
Because I think him being 22, maybe somewhere in that 5th round, you just go, hey, it's a Dynasty League. I'm not in it for next year. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm taking a chance on this guy. Would you rather have him or LaMarcus Aldridge in a Dynasty League?
Well, and we can talk about this maybe some other time. If I'm playing in a startup Dynasty League, I'm looking to win. I want to win because
that's the smart strategy, right? Because everyone's looking for Malcolm Brogdon and freaking Eric Bledsoe sitting on the board, and you're like, you're idiots. Eric Bledsoe's still out there.
Well, and the flag flies forever, right? I mean, I want to win the damn league, whether it's this year or 5 years from now. If everyone's going to go for 5 years from now, I'm going to win it this year because it's going to be super easy. So in that sense, I was going to say I'm looking at Parker from like 75 to 100. So that's kind of where I'm looking at LaMarcus Aldridge next year. So, I mean, I'd have to think I'd actually probably go Aldridge just because I'm trying to win now. But if in the draft, I might switch to Parker just because I'm not in love with Aldridge and I don't think he ever gets back to where he was.
Yeah, and let's also say you're playing in a smart league with smart guys, and half the league is trying to win now, and the other half of the league is looking at the future. I think that makes Jabari Parker a little bit more valuable.
Here's the thing, and I mean, I don't know many dynasty leagues that play with a kind of a snake draft, right? A lot of guys, and I myself am switching to this kind of just playing mostly in leagues where there's an auction.
Yeah, and everyone should be playing in leagues with auction. It's just a much more fun way to do a draft.
I think you might be able to sneak Jabari Parker in there at a real cheap price just because guys aren't thinking about him. Guys aren't know he's not going to be back for a while. And if he's a bench player on your team, if you can get him at that price,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good ticket to have when he actually gets healthy.
Yeah, in the long term, that's a great and if you're in keeper leagues as well, that's a great guy to get at a low price where the penalty is low, and then you're sitting on that guy. Especially especially if you don't really have
$2, $3, $4.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and then you got a player who's worth 25 or 20 in your cap, but he's $5 to you. That's a big.
That's pretty. I think a pretty huge. You always got to go with the value, especially with the auction leagues.
Let's talk about Chris Middleton now.
I love Chris Middleton. Love this guy. He's to me, he's going to be very good next year. 2 seasons ago he ended up 30th per game. Totals, I think he was 22nd overall, right behind my main man Giannis, which is wild. I don't think he can. Maybe I don't know if he's going to duplicate what he did in that season 2 years ago, but I think that's his ceiling, right?
I'm with you. Per game, what was he last year? 8 cat per game.
I'm looking at 9 cat. He was 63rd in my 9 cat.
8 cat, he was 50. In only 30 minutes a night. 30.7 minutes a night.
That's pretty good.
So I think he's definitely a top 50 player. There's no real reason to think he's going to get hurt. He's only 25.
Where are you targeting him in normal leagues? You're going to assume a lot of people are going to be on him.
We're saying 12 team.
12 team.
Um,
Robert Covington or Chris Middleton?
I'm going Middleton.
Oof. I think that's about where I'm at. I think that's a toss-up for me.
I think Covington could get his minutes squeezed a little bit. They got a lot more talent. They're going to want to play some of those young guys. So if anything, I think he kind of takes a step back a little bit and Middleton takes a step forward. I think Middleton could play like 35 minutes a night. I mean, I'm not joking.
Why wouldn't he? He's 25 years old. He's healthy.
I kind of see Middleton as a top like 30 to 35 player.
Yeah.
And I don't see Covington there. Nothing against Robert Covington.
I thought you were picking Covington. Gordon Hayward or Chris Middleton?
That's a good one. Probably going to go Gordon Hayward. That's close.
Probably his usage might be a little down in Boston there. That's a pretty good toss-up. I think that's about where I would stick him in there.
How about the 2 Washington guys? Who are you going with? You got Beal, you got Porter. I'm going Middleton over both, obviously.
I think
taking Beal over.
You can make a case for Beal, but I'm huge on Middleton, and the reason I'm huge on Middleton is because the guy gets steals.
Yes.
The year, what year was that? Let's keep going back. He was approaching 2 steals a game 2 seasons ago. He had 1.7 steals per game. He's going to shoot more threes.
Got 1.4 in 30 minutes. If you're going to say he's going to play 35.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to factor in, too, that if you're looking at last year's stats, some of those games he kind of was ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
And after a big injury like he had, you're a little tentative, a little unsure of yourself. You're not super playing at your best, probably. And it's only a 29-game sample. So
let's also throw this out there. Giannis 2 years ago wasn't Giannis the base god that he is now. Like, Giannis is going to get everyone's attention. Chris Middleton is going to be a bit more open, being surrounded by the likes of Tony Snell, who also spreads the floor out.
Yeah, I'm really big on Middleton. I can see myself having Middleton in a lot of leagues just because I don't know that. I think we see this a lot, right? Milwaukee guys kind of get discounted just because. Other than Giannis,
people don't really pay attention. People don't pay attention to Chris Middleton. People will, because people will have to pay attention to Giannis after this year. But I think you're right. I think he's a kind of a guy who goes under the radar. Anyone else on this team that you care about in Standard League? Greg Monroe and Malcolm Brogdon, both starters. Malcolm Brogdon started every once in a while. Greg Monroe started every once in a while. But there was that whole debacle of Greg Monroe playing about 22 minutes per damn game. I completely forgot about this.
So which one you want to talk about first? I'll let you pick.
Let's go to Malcolm because I think he's a bit quicker.
Okay. So is the question? Is he Standard League relevant?
Is he Standard League relevant?
Yeah, back end.
I think he could be a top 100 player.
Me too, but not. I don't think he's a top 75 player. I think
that's
probably
he's
one
ceiling,
of those
right?
weird guys. Yeah, I think he's one of those. I don't want to say weird guys. He's one of those guys who kind of came in and he basically played as good as he's going to play. I think I don't see him getting a ton better.
They had a puzzle piece, and he happened to fit that puzzle piece. Like they were looking for someone to be the corner piece, and he was just there, and he handled the ball when needed, and made some plays when needed. He's 24, but he was never pegged to be the next great thing. I'm not sure how much better he could possibly get.
Right, the ceiling doesn't seem super high, from what I've seen. It's like he is what he is, and that's great, but he's not going to be a ton better. He may get some more minutes. He may play like 30 a night this year.
Under your assumption, though, people name recognition. Malcolm Brogdon, people probably don't even know who that is. Could be a nice late pick for a lot of people past the 10th round.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's go to the Greg Monroe situation, which plagued me in a handful of the leagues last year.
So per game value, 93rd in 22 and a half minutes.
It's kind of incredible.
The other thing,
minutes a game and be Standard League relevant.
Yeah. So does he get more minutes?
They didn't really lose anybody, right? So
yeah, and they didn't really gain anybody.
Would Kidd drastically change what he wants to do next year with Greg, the man Monroe, especially when Thon Maker and DJ Wilson could possibly play minutes as a 4-5 kind of guy? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on there because they're obviously not playing traditional roles. Greg Monroe is like a rich man's Jahlil Okafor. I have no idea what to do with this situation.
I'm sort of with you. I don't think he gets any less minutes. So that's
sure. That is a positive.
In the sense that he was Standard League relevant in 22 and a half minutes, which is insane. So taking that one step further, I don't really think that he gets more minutes, right? Maybe 25.
The only thing he could do is get more minutes or stay the same.
Yeah.
So why not take a 10 plus round flyer on him?
But I think it's also important to say that the upside is pretty damn high if he gets 32 minutes, but I think that's a 0% chance.
Yes.
So the upside to me isn't super high.
Unless I'd say there's a 90% chance he doesn't. Let's say there's a really weird freak injury. Thon Maker and John Henson bless their
But
kneecaps.
then don't you think
together.
they just play Giannis at the 5 and go with some crazy small lineup of
God.
Matthew Delova and
Wouldn't that
Brogdon
be so much fun to watch?
and that's call it the NBA getting smaller, call it kid being crazy, call it kid hating Greg Monroe, call it whatever you want to call it. I don't care about that. I just don't think that the kid wants to play Monroe the minutes. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter for our purposes.
Good point.
I don't see any way that he gives him more than 25 because he just doesn't want to.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. That's not Kid's philosophy. Greg Monroe is a slowly growing obsolete, and if he was on any other team, he probably would be playing 30 minutes. But since he is on Jason Kidd's team, and Jason Kidd just wants to play a team of Giannis's, he's not gonna play.
And there's no trade, right? I mean, we've seen this, right? The Magic want to get rid of Vucevic. The Raptors want to get rid of Valanciunas. The Bucks want to get rid of Monroe. No one's buying, right? There's no market.
It would have happened already.
So we are where we are, and he's probably a top 100 player again, but he's probably 80 to 100 because there's just there's no upward mobility or downward.
Anyone else on this team? John Henson, Tony Snell? I don't think so. I don't think anyone else is relevant.
We've ogled over John Henson's blocks for a couple years, saying, "Oh, if he gets the minutes," and he's fallen in the same Greg Monroe bucket of it's never happening.
God, I'm over that. I'm sad. Sadly, I was on that bandwagon for a couple years. Tony Snell could technically get better, but I don't think he's standard league relevant better. He can maybe sneak into the very bottom of the standard league if he really, really tried. I doubt it though.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's also not really a great streamer in the sense that he doesn't do anything well.
Yeah,
so he kind of
there.
He's kind of just on the waiver wire in most standard leagues because he's not great to stream and he's not worth a standard league roster spot. So he's kind of just in the cold.
Yeah, he's the number one player that's on the BuzzFeed article. Deep leagues hate this guy. Hate these guys. He's number one. Deep leagues, people pick him up. Deep leagues, they hate this guy. You'll never guess who it is. That's just Tony Snell. And he's boring. And he doesn't do anything. And you have to pick him up because he's technically relevant. He technically plays 29 minutes in your really deep leagues. But you hate him because he doesn't do a damn thing. I guess 1.8 3-pointers is nothing to scoff about. If you're in a super deep league, but yeah, I can't say anyone else on this team is exciting me. We got through 5 teams. That's pretty decent. We got a lot more. 25 to go.
Yeah, and obviously we did a cursory glance of the 5 teams today because not a lot changed. There are going to be teams where we're going to talk for a half hour, 45 minutes on a team because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, someone like the LA Lakers, perhaps. Intrigued with the Atlanta Hawks. Who the hell's playing on that team? Who knows?
Yeah, they're a good one. Philly. I mean, I'm super excited to talk about Philly.
You were excited about Philly.
Just in the sense that there's a lot of question marks. They got a lot of pieces. They're actually kind of a deep team now, which is weird to say after many years of being in the toilet.
Well, hopefully this Kyrie trade pans out sooner than later so we can officially focus on these team previews. And I hope you guys are also enjoying those team previews. If you are, go ahead and give us a rating, give us a review. We'd really appreciate that. And if you want to hear us talk about anything specific during the preseason, as it's starting to ramp up through August and September, go ahead and tweet at us. You can find me at Watch the Boxes. And Tyler, where can they find you?
You can find me at Watsy4444.
You got any hashtag basketball.com articles coming up in the holster?
I am working on one about the Sixers and how deep they are and how that is a good thing but it makes their rotation kind of madness. So
You're
it's got a little
feeling-
fantasy spin to it even.
Oh, that's good research already. I know you are feeling the process over there. I can tell.
I've been trusting it for years. I'm a big Sam Hinkie fan.
I would like Chicago to embrace the process. I'm waiting for them to embrace the process. They've embraced being terrible, which I guess is part of the process, but that's not the process. So
if there's one episode of this podcast I am personally looking forward to, it is the day we talk about the Chicago Bulls. Because I feel like you might spend an hour just railroading them, and I am excited for that.
I've really been avoiding it. I've been really trying to, champion my personal health, my mental health. I have to pay the second half of my season tickets here in the next week, so that will be a really tough time for me, giving money to an organization that is absolutely abysmal. But I'm excited to see other teams play, so that'll be fun. So yeah, we'll be getting to that. I've been avoiding doing articles on hashtag basketball about the Chicago Bulls because I just don't think writing F-bombs for 5 pages is an acceptable piece of journalism. But there is a hashtag basketball podcast that might be coming out about the Chicago Bulls that you truly is going to be the host of. So I will probably get a lot of it out of my system through that podcast. And so keep a lookout for that on the hashtag basketball podcast network for hashtag Bulls if you want to hear more about the Chicago Bulls. Because
I am looking forward to
very
guesting
angry
on that podcast.
Yes.
Just to set you up for your railroading of the Bulls.
I really, really got to figure out how to not be a fan of this team.
Dude, David Nwaba, starting point guard. Don't hate.
You know what? Fine. Who cares? We just need to suck. All right, let's wrap it up. Anything else you want to plug? Nothing else coming up. Any other podcasts or articles you got?
No, man. Just this.
Beautiful. We did get a little interest in our setting up a fantasy league with our listeners. So once again, tweet at us if you'd like to get involved with that. We're going to probably hit that a lot harder as people are actually starting to pay attention to fantasy basketball here in August, September.
And I am working on a nice rule set that I'm going to run by Mike in the next week or so. So if you are interested in that league, now's the time.
Wow. Yeah, get in early because spots will probably go fast, I assume, once people start paying attention to fantasy basketball again. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a fun little thing to be able to talk about during the podcast.
And it'll be fun to talk junk to each other, Mike, which is all we're all about here.
Yeah, I assume we're going to go head-to-head simply because I hate it. So I'm sure you're just finding ways to make me angry about the league.
Oh, of course.
Just an absolute worthless. Not worthless. Just not my preferred way of playing. So
I am going to, if you're nice enough to invite me, I am going to join a Roto League with you this year.
wow.
Number one, so you can beat me because I'm not the best at Roto. Number two,
no promises.
just so I can have the experience. I'm hoping you got a good league for me because every Roto League I've been in, okay, this is not the brag. Most of the guys quit by the All-Star break because the league has been decided.
True. Well,
and so I just don't like that part of it.
I will do my best to find a very competitive Roto League. You really have to hate the other people in the league to stay focused after the All-Star break when you're in like 7th place. It can be done. I was in a very tight top 6 Roto League just the other last year.
Here's my problem is like even like 3rd and 4th quit though.
Yeah.
And so it's like 2 guys playing and it's like, well, okay, like it's me or you, man. Like there's
you know what? You have to have pride if you're going to be
in a roto league. And
I
someone's-
play it out no matter what place I'm in. Even if I have a bad year, I'm playing it out.
If I'm in
setting
last,
mine.
I'm getting next to last. You know,
Yeah, if I
that's
can
how
beat
I
one
roll.
guy, I'm beating somebody.
Exactly.
And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for at least 10 or 12 guys who want to play like that.
And we're gonna have to get those set up. We will let everyone know the details on that moving forward once we get some, actual leagues set up, and once that's even available. I'm not even sure the major providers are allowing people to set up leagues at this time.
ESPN sent me an email. They were already going, but
Wow,
they always send it, and then like all you can do is sign up for the league. You can't actually draft for a while, so I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
right. You can just like say I'm having this league here. So I'm not sure if they're actually going yet or not. Probably not.
Yeah, I think we got a handful of things in store for the listeners here coming up onto the season. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's it, though. I guess we'll reconvene and see everybody next time. Thanks, everybody.